Evening, good evening, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you're joining from. You're welcome to Dobac community. And today we are happy to say that this is our first of its kind. And when I say first of its kind, we've been doing series, we've been holding sessions, and we can say that it's been quite encouraging. So I would say, dear esteemed colleagues, aspiring business analysts, right? You are welcome to our online business summit, and this is the opportunity for you to, when I called it redefining business analysis, is what we've been doing over time. So launching into 2025, I said, we need to hit the ground running. You can't be doing same thing over and over and expect a different result. No, it's not possible. So let's change the dynamics. Let's bring in experts. Let's bring in top industries, seasoned professionals to start the year, and starting the year on a good note. That is why we are here. So I'm thrilled to have you join us today, from diverse locations, professional backgrounds, you know, united by our shared passion for driving organizational success through strategic insights. And I would say that our purpose, our purpose is to, rapidly evolve business landscape. So as we all know, the role of a business analyst has never been more critical. Now we know that as business analysts, we should leverage more on artificial intelligence. I'm not going there. I have seasoned professionals for the whole of January that's going to walk us through this journey and beyond. And I will say that we are the bridge between complex business challenges and innovative solutions, right? So we are the architect of strategic transformation and the catalyst of organizational growth. I'm happy to inform you that this business summit, is designed to explore cutting edge business analysis methodologies, discussing, emerging technologies reshaping our profession. And this is to say that we'll share practical strategies for delivering exceptional value. Dobac has always been about delivering exceptional value. The kind of people we network with, the kind of network and community that we've collaborated with, we've partnered with seasoned individuals, is for us to bring value and also connect to forward-thinking professionals. So, what to expect from this business summit? So, this business analysis summit, you should expect that throughout our session, you will gain actionable insights from industry experts, right? Practical tools, techniques, networking opportunities, a deeper understanding of current business analysis trends. And I will encourage you, to participate actively. Use this to your advantage, right? Having David here, and David is our facilitator for today, is our speaker for today. Having him here is to tell you that you are in the right hands. I can say that, I can vouch for him that you are in the right hand, and you joining this business analysis summit is a testament that you are already hitting the ground running, trying to say that I want to do more. You hit the ground running. I want to do more. I want to leverage on this. I want to become better. I want to understand the fundamentals, how they've done it so far, how I need to do it at the same time. So remember, you need to ask questions, share your experiences, anything that is bothering you, anything you have in mind, ensure that you write it down. And once you do that, they will do justice to your question. Okay. Now, my closing inspiration for this Business Analysis Summit 2025, which I've themed Redefining Business Analysis, is to remember that as business analysts, we don't just analyze data. We tell compelling stories that drive meaningful change. And today marks another step in your professional journey of continuous learning and growth. So, as we dive in and to unlock our collective potential, I will say that you are welcome to the first day. You've been here on time. You're joining this session. You are welcome. Thank you for joining. And I hope that you use this to the best of your expectation. And without much ado, I'll bring in David. And this is the profile for David so that you know you are in good hands. I can say that you are in good hands. Trust me when I say you're in good hands. Yes, you are. Okay. So here, there you have it. I'll say that David is a senior business analysis practitioner with over 20 years of real-world project experience in industries such as the financial services, health services, automotive, IT service management, and retail. He has led software development and business process improvement projects in blended PM and BA roles, project management and business analysis roles, right? David is a lead business analyst at Computershare, a certified Scrum Product Owner, and a certified, safe product owner, product manager. He's passionate about teaching and developing, and developing business analysts. He's also active in the business analysis community. I can assure you, yes, he's active. And that's why we have him here, sharing his industry and professional expertise. David received the 2022 Career Impact Award from the University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies, an Excellence in Teaching Award based on nominations from learners in the course he has taught so far. And I'll say that you can connect with David via his LinkedIn. That will be dropped later, as we move on. So he teaches BA courses at the University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies. And he has provided and will provide, mentoring and coaching services to us today, to aspiring and also to seasoned BAs. So, David, I will say that you are welcome.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, David.
What is yours?
Thank you very much for that warm welcome, David. Appreciate it. And good afternoon and good evening, everyone, from wherever you may be joining us. Thank you very much for your time and for taking that time to join us here in this reflective session, I like to call it. Let me just confirm the screen share here. David, can you confirm that you can see that well? I think you're on mute, sir.
Yes, I can confirm.
All right, thank you so much. So as David mentioned, yes, I have been practicing business analysis for over 20 years. And for those of you that can see me on video, that explains most of the gray hair on my head at this point in time. The rest is my children, and the main majority of it is business analysis work. I joke, I tease. I've also been teaching business analysis courses at various institutions for the last 12 years, and that, along with the mentoring and coaching, is, as David said, my passion in this world of business analysis. I like to share what my experiences have been and try to pass those along to folks like yourself. So thank you very much for joining us. I also want to give you a little bit of background on me as well. I actually graduated from a university in the Toronto, Canada area with a degree in French studies. So, s'il y a quelqu'un qui parle français, on peut se bavarder de temps en temps. And I thought I was going to pursue a bilingual career and work within the federal government here within Canada. And I started out in call center management and worked my way from a customer service rep position all the way through to a call center manager within a 5-year period. But then I came to realize that it wasn't a fit for me and what I wanted to do. And through a friend of a friend, I ended up joining a startup software development company in the capacity of a trainer. And so to David's earlier point about transferable skills, that was the set of transferable skills I was able to bring to this company, which was what I did to help coach customer service reps on how to handle call volumes and objections and whatnot. And we started off on a 3-month contract to sort of feel each other out and see how it would work. That 3 months turned into 5 years. And I got bitten by the BA bug, as the expression goes, and got to do the full project life cycle then and have continued to do so ever since. So it is very much, what I've enjoyed. It's been the most professionally rewarding work I've done in my entire working life. And I hope to share some of that passion with you today. And I share that message with you mainly because I want everyone to understand that even someone like me with a linguistics degree can begin and succeed and have an effective business analysis career. You do not need to start in IT. You do not need to have programming knowledge. You do not need to have any kind of particular domain knowledge. You can start from absolutely anywhere, including a linguistics degree, and be able to have an effective career in business analysis. So I realize that many of you joining us today are on the new side of your BA career, or aspiring to become BAs, and maybe wondering, am I in the right place? Do I have the right set of experience or knowledge to start? And the answer is yes, no matter where you are. If you have a willingness to learn, if you have a strong work ethic, if you have a curious mindset, you have the beginnings of an effective BA career. For some housekeeping before we get into it, I will share a PDF copy of this presentation with David and the community so that that can be distributed out to all the members accordingly. So in case you may be wanting that, just know that up front. We'll also be going through the entire set of material that I'll be providing here, and then we'll take all your questions at the end. And I'm happy to stay until the very last minute to answer any and all business analysis related questions that you might have. Okay, so keep them coming, drop them in the chat. David and team will be moderating that chat and keeping an eye on that, and then curating a set of questions for us to go through at the end. Thank you for all those lovely reactions. Again, I hope that message resonated with you in terms of where we're starting from and where you can start from, and we will get right into it. As I was reflecting on my BA journey as a business analyst, I really marveled at all the lessons that I had learned along the way. No two projects are identical, and therefore that makes the role of a business analyst a dynamic one. It's going to require a blend of analytical skills, right? Those more hard skills, technical skills, what I call interpersonal finesse, and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. So I intend to share with you here some pivotal lessons that have shaped my career and that to this day continue to guide me through this ever-evolving business landscape that we find ourselves in. First and foremost, we have to remember to question and verify. And I'm going to sort of preface all this using one of the terms David expressed in the intro, which was fundamentals. A lot of this is going to resonate with fundamental practices we need to do as BAs, regardless of the business domain that we're in, regardless of the level of experience or expertise we start with. These are all fundamental practices that we should be having in our everyday BA activities. And the first one is to question and verify. Some of you may know this expression as trust but verify, but I prefer to call it question and verify. One of the cardinal rules in the world of business analysis is to always do that, question and verify. It's very easy to get caught up in assumptions, right? Often leading to misguided decisions. There's nothing wrong with us voicing our concerns, asking for information to either be validated or invalidated, to make sure we're working with knowns, working with facts and not beliefs, because the longer a belief lingers into the project's life cycle, and the later on it gets validated or invalidated in said life cycle, the potential impact or on that implementation can be significant, and we want to mitigate that as much as possible. You want to untangle the web of assumptions that you'll hear from subject matter experts, from other stakeholders, from members of your own project team, and make sure that you, as the business analyst, are the last person on the project team that should assume anything. That doesn't mean that assumptions won't come up and they will exist for a short while, but we need to ensure that they exist for as short as possible, and again, have them invalidated or validated as quickly as we possibly can. We have to remember that being a business analyst isn't just about eliciting the stakeholders' needs and turning them into an actionable set of requirements. It's about understanding that underlying rationale. What are their motivations? What are those preconceived notions that they have, and challenge those accordingly. There was a project I worked on some years ago where stakeholders were convinced that a particular feature was essential for success of this project. And believe it or not, that feature was spell checker. As obvious and as basic as that is, we were all quite surprised that this was such a critical feature. And what we did is we questioned and we verified and we tried to better understand where that stakeholder was coming from. And through a series of probing questions and very meticulous verification process, it became pretty evident that that perceived necessity was based on outdated information. They thought that the system was going to operate the way other systems had and not in a new type of format, and this sort of spell checking and needing to make sure all this type of legislative and audited documentation was going to be to the nines, was going to be handled in some other way, shape, or form. But had we simply as a project team taken what that stakeholder said at face value and indicated that as a top priority need, when we would have worked towards that and realized later on that it wasn't going to be delivered in that way, shape, or form. So I'm not saying don't necessarily question everything that they say, but when something seems a little bit unclear, a little bit off, you seem uncertain, there isn't an absolute sort of light bulb moment for you about what they're saying and how clear, accurate, and complete it is, then take that opportunity to politely and professionally question and verify, okay? Approach every project that you work on with what I call a healthy dose of skepticism. Don't be afraid to ask the tough questions and challenge the status quo in that particular company's operations. Even if you are very early in your career, you have an equal seat at the table as a member of that project team, and you have every opportunity and every right to get clarity, make sure things are accurately and completely stated so that you can then gather and compile all those needs and all that information from all those disparate sources, and again, put it together as a clear, accurate, and complete requirements package for that project. And what you may find is that you'll actually uncover hidden insights that would not have been described to you or would have been shared with you initially or explicitly, and that would be very valuable to that ultimate requirements package you're putting together. And on top of that, as you may be asked to provide any recommendations on how the team should proceed or how the stakeholders should proceed, those would be grounded in solid, verified information. Okay, so that's my first habit that I would encourage you to build into your everyday practices. The next one has to do with being from Missouri. So I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with the layout of the United States of America, but every state has its own tagline, has its own little catchphrase, if you will, right? You have California as the Golden State, you have New York as the Empire State, and so on. Well, Missouri, the state of Missouri, has its own tagline, which is the Show Me State. So effective immediately, I want you to all believe that you are from the state of Missouri, regardless of where you may have actually come from. And by embodying this sort of show me mentality is going to be very crucial for you in your work as a business analyst. When you think of all the data and information that we are inundated with on a daily basis, it becomes very easy to get swayed by impressive presentations and persuasive arguments from someone within the confines of that project. On top of that, again, as I said before, stakeholders will not always be clear about their needs nor describing their pain points. You have to remember that a lot of the stakeholders you'll work with are neither tech savvy nor project savvy. They will not always appreciate the level of details and specifics that you need to get to as a BA in order to do an effective analytical exercise and produce a clear, accurate, and complete package of information for that project team to use. So seasoned analysts will understand the value of demanding tangible proof, asking for that opportunity to be shown how do things work today, or show me that report that you were trying to describe, or help me understand how you want this calculation to run. Do you have any prior examples of that? Because oftentimes stakeholders will not be able to communicate it verbally clearly enough for you to understand the level of details and specifics that need to go into your requirements package, so that folks like developers and testers and database admins and whatnot can do their technical magic to make this all come to life in working pieces of software. Right? This lesson hit home particularly for me during a project some years ago where my fellow project team members and I anticipated that our shortlisted vendors would not show us exactly what we needed to see from their software solutions. So this was a project where we were in a buy situation. We were not going to be building anything. We were going to be buying from a third party. And so we put out a request for proposal, an RFP, as many of you know it as, got some vendor responses, and we wanted to shortlist down. But we were concerned they weren't going to be able to show us what we needed in the sequence we wanted to see it that reflected our stakeholders' business operations. So what we did is we adopted the show me the proof mentality. Instead of relying solely on the vendor's assurances, we insisted that each vendor follow the same demo script, if you will, to validate their claims. So that way we saw the exact same scenarios presented to us in the exact order we wanted to see it in, so that the vendors didn't have an opportunity to miss this, not cover that, and whatnot. We wanted them to follow our script as opposed to their own script. And some vendors were surprised by this approach because usually they have free reign to come in and present what they like, but we wanted it shown in a certain way. We wanted to see the proof that their software solutions would handle what we needed it to handle in the way we wanted to see it. And as it turned out, that demo script approach not only revealed potential pitfalls that were conveniently omitted in their earlier sales pitches, but also allowed for the necessary adjustments to be made before we did a full-scale implementation using that vendor's solution. So this experience really reinforced for me the importance of being discerning, even when faced with seemingly convincing propositions. Have that critical eye. Ask to be shown, right? Ask for evidence-based decision-making to be done, and for you to do that yourself as you go about doing your analysis work on projects. My next habit that I'd like to share with you can be correlated to the world of real estate. What are the three most important things in real estate? Location, 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 correct? For us as business analysts, it is document, document, document. If there is any one lesson that has become so ingrained in my daily routine, it's the importance of documenting, documenting, and documenting some more. As we've all experienced over the last number of years, if not decades, it's a fast-paced world of business in which we work. And as a result, details can easily slip through the cracks if they're not captured and cataloged appropriately. By writing things down, it frees your mind to do what you do best, which is to analyze as a business analyst instead of trying to remember everything. And when it comes to any particular practice of doing this or any particular tools, I always encourage and recommend to those that ask me to find one that works for them, right? Whether it's a combination of paper and digital based tools, whether it's all digital, all paper, whatever works for you, find an organization and time management system that allows you to capture things quickly and effectively so that you don't have to worry about remembering all those precious business need details, for example, risks, issues, concerns, etc. Find a way to write it all down. I firmly believe it is impossible for any one of us to keep it all straight in our heads. We have to find a way to document all the information we receive in a format that'll be utilized by us, as well as when necessary, utilized by our relevant stakeholders, subject matter experts, fellow project team members, and so on. So whether it's meeting minutes, whether it's your eventual requirements, whether it's project timelines, that meticulous documentation is going to serve as your blueprint for the work that you do on that project team, right? There will be projects where a seemingly insignificant detail from an early discussion will end up being a game changer in a final implementation phase. But without that thorough documentation, that information will likely be lost in the shuffle and the team will miss out, and that will result in either a gap, issues, defects, something to be addressed with later on, and we want to minimize that as much as possible. So by taking the time to document and document and document some more, it not only is going to aid in the clarity of the communication, but it's going to serve as a historical record. Why did we say X and we changed to Y? This was the reason why. This was the decision maker that made that call on this date, and this was the context and rationale behind it. That can help solve a lot of angst and answer a lot of questions as you go about delivering a project with your fellow team members. It enables teams to track the evolution of a project, learn from your past experiences, and avoid repeating mistakes, right? I've learned that a well-documented project is in fact a resilient project. And last, but certainly not least, the last habit I want to share with you is to never, ever stop learning. In this realm that we work in called business analysis, stagnation is going to be a recipe for obsolescence. The technological landscape, business practices, market dynamics, as we all come to see, are regularly in a state of flux. If we embrace a practice of never stop learning, then we can build that into a cornerstone of our professional journeys. And I've done that, and it has paid off in spades for me over the last 20 years. I've made a conscious effort to stay abreast of emerging technologies and industry trends, but also evolving methodologies. It isn't so much that the technologies keep changing, but there can be evolutions in the methodologies that we use as project professionals to deliver these projects for our organizations and our clients. And by making a commitment to continuous learning, that has kept me relevant, that has generated new ideas, and that's allowed me to converse better. I'm speaking to my fellow stakeholders, my fellow project team members, with the latest and greatest information I've had available to me and that I've taken the time to curate into my own knowledge base, if you will, and all of that has opened doors to new opportunities and new challenges. We are very much in a digital transformation area. We all know this. We're all experiencing that as consumers, as citizens, and as BAs in our project work. And that digital transformation era has ushered in new tools and techniques that were unimaginable a decade ago. Things like AI and the way we're proceeding through that new era, that new dimension of our lives as it's coming to unfold. Staying ahead of the curve is not just a luxury for us, it's a necessity. So whether you're attending workshops, whether you're attending information sessions like this Dobac BA Summit, whether you're pursuing certifications, whether you're engaging with industry communities like Dobac and others, those are all going to be avenues that you will use that I have myself consistently explored, and that's fueled my appetite for learning. That is one thing that you will know if you are going to be effective in this career is, do you have an interest in learning? Are you curious? Are you wanting to learn how things work in this domain versus that domain and understand how it all fits together into the context of that world you're working in? So ultimately, what have the last 20 years taught me? First and foremost, that no two projects are identical. They may be slightly, moderately, or significantly similar, but they will never, ever be identical. We will never be able to exactly copy and paste what we did on the last project 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago into the project we're working on today 100%. There will always be something new. There's something different about the context of this Salesforce implementation versus the last Salesforce implementation that we worked on. So the circumstances, the conditions, the constraints in some way, shape, or form will be different, and it requires our analytical mindset, our interpersonal finesse, and our ability to continuously learn that will allow us to be better and master these projects as we come to work on them, okay? The lessons you learn will become the brushstrokes that will shape the final masterpiece that is your analytical work on that project. So question assumptions, advocate for proof, meticulously document, and relentlessly pursue knowledge. Those are the habits that will form the bedrock of success in this dynamic field we know to be business analysis. And as you weave those into your daily, everyday activities, you're not only going to navigate the complexities of business analysis itself, but you'll be able to contribute to the growth and the resilience of the organizations that you serve. So do carry on with curiosity, with skepticism, with diligence, and have an unwavering commitment to lifelong learning. So those are my habits, folks. Those are what I would share with you as practices that you should build into your regular career. As a bonus, if I may, I often get asked about AI and how do I see AI evolving in our role. I do not see AI replacing our role whatsoever, right? The context of work in a project space requires an understanding of the human condition, if you will, and how we work as humans. And AI will not be able to, as far as I can tell, be able to understand everything David's thinking about and know David's experience and expertise and background and his thoughts and his concerns and his biases and whatnot. The same with me, the same with rookies, the same with anybody's. So the idea is to remember that we will still have a role to play. We, as another human, will have to take what we produce out of AI. And I certainly see us using AI as another tool in the toolbox, if you will, or tool in the toolkit, and using the outputs of that and shaping and molding that to fit what we need to deliver for those particular projects. So I very much believe that a BA that uses AI will outpace someone, will outpace a BA that does not use AI. So it is something we need to get comfortable with and learn how to prompt there accordingly. But it is very much going to be part of our lives, and the more we incorporate that and learn how to incorporate it effectively into our analysis work, the more effective we will be as BAs. There's no doubt about that. All right, my thanks once again to David and the Dobac community for having me here as part of this BA Summit. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for all the kind reactions I've been seeing on the webinar. So thank you for sharing your thoughts and feelings there. And David, I'll turn it over to you now for any questions that you have received from the audience.
All right. Okay. Can we keep the emojis coming? Let's appreciate David. Yes, keep it coming.
Thank you, folks.
Right. Have you got any question? Let's see. If you want to unmute your mic to ask your questions, please do so. Otherwise, if you can't, just drop them in the chat box right now. So we'll take them. All right. Please go for it. Abongile. I hope I pronounced that right. I pronounced that rightly.
Yes, thank you so much, David. Did you pronounce it right? And okay. Oh, you're both Davids. Okay, thank you, both Davids.
We are.
Okay. All right. I'm currently in the software industry. It's been my second year now in the software industry, and so far I've been doing development work, specifically with Unity, coding, and stuff like that. But I'm interested in transitioning into the BA space, and I've been doing for quite a while research on what exactly is being done here, because where I currently work, we don't have a BA, but we do work that is related to BA when we're developing maybe software whereby you'll have to conduct maybe client requirements analysis, a business case document, like stuff like those. I do see BAs talking about even on LinkedIn and stuff like that. So for someone who's looking into transitioning into a BA role, what would be your advice in terms of maybe certifications that someone can pursue or qualifications or anything like that, besides maybe networking and joining sessions like this one?
So this goes very much, Abigole, to the last habit that I shared, which is never stop learning. So whether that's going to be in the pursuit of a certification or whether that's going to be through these informative free sessions that the Dobac community offers or anything else for that matter, always continue to learn, always understand what is out there in the world of business analysis. And remember fundamentally that it is about knowing a set of tools, right? The techniques that you hear people talk about, like data modeling, decision modeling, process modeling, use cases, and all that, those are all tools in a toolbox. That's ultimately what we have available to us. And in order to be an effective BA, it's about learning what those tools are that are available to us. So whether you follow the IIBA, the governing body for our profession in North America primarily, or you follow BCS out there in the UK, you're learning about tools in your toolbox. And then our responsibility is to understand, for this project that I'm working on now or that I'm focusing on now, what are the right tools to do that particular project? Right? Based on the context of that project, its circumstances, its conditions, its constraints, what are the right tools that I need to use in order to deliver my BA work on that project? And those tools are from everything from how to elicit the information from the relevant stakeholders and subject matter experts, through to analyzing them, and then through ultimately to documenting them towards the end. So that's what we need to learn, folks, as you're coming into this profession, is what are all those tools available to us? And again, whether it's through Dobac, whether it's through paid courses, whether it's through reading any of the bodies of knowledge that are published out there, that's what you're trying to do. So the more often you get a chance to do that, Abongole, is what I would suggest you do. On top of that, find opportunities to gain project experience. So whether that's through your current workplace and approaching your line manager and saying, if there's any opportunity for me to participate even as a subject matter expert on a project, can you put my name out there so I can be considered for that? And should you get that opportunity, you will then get a chance to participate in a project. You will see what the dynamics of a project are all about, how the status meetings are done, how people communicate, how people collaborate without actually having the BA role. And that's a great way to add that notch to your belt, as the expression goes, and add that to your CV and build on from there. So find every opportunity you can to learn, is whether through learning the tools of our trade and or through direct project experience.
Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome.
I really
Good. I'm
appreciate
glad
it.
that helped. No problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, David, for that. I saw another person, raising his hand. Michael, go for it, please. Michael Coyote.
Michael, are you there?
Michael, if you're there, please unmute your mic.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you for this webinar. So my question is, as a business analyst, so how do we select right software solution for the client? So how do we determine the right software? And as a business analyst, as a person that wants to have a deeper understanding of IT and software development, can you recommend a course that the person can take to have a deeper understanding of software solution?
Okay,
Thank you.
fair enough. You're welcome. Yeah, certainly. So for the first part of that question, it really comes down to the needs, Michael. What are the needs? What are the pain points that those stakeholders you're working with are expressing that they have and that fall within the scope of what this project is trying to deliver? What are we trying to address as the objective or objectives of this project? And any software solution that the team is going to pursue from a third party has to be able to address those needs. And that is going to be a fundamental practice to any project work that you're going to do as a member of a project team. It's about addressing those needs, whether those needs are addressed with new or enhanced software, whether that software is built inside the organization or bought from a third party, whether it's process changes simply and just process improvement that needs to happen. Not every project requires software in order to address those objectives. Whether it's new policies, new equipment, new facilities, the team needs to understand, based on the scope of what this project is all about and the pain points that we're trying to address, those are going to serve as the basis for going through the decision analysis and making that one-time important decision of which software vendor or which software product we're going to use. So it always has to come back to needs. To the second question you had, in terms of gaining an understanding of IT, what I suggest everyone does is build what's called a working knowledge of IT. But the same applies to a working knowledge of the business domains that you're in. And that can be obtained in a just-in-time, on-demand basis, Michael. I'll give you an example from my experience. Some years ago, we were working on a software product we were building, and we were building out this whole suite of reports. And I, as the BA, had to not only do the requirements work, but I also had to do the testing work on this particular project because we didn't have any dedicated testing personnel that we could have on this project. So I had to figure out a way to be able to test the reports that were being produced through the interface and making sure they were displaying the right records from the right time periods and so on. And so I quickly realized that I had to learn SQL, standard query language or structured query language, right? Which is how people query databases to understand what records, what data is in there. And so I went out and I researched. I learned what it was like to write SQL queries, what the fundamental concepts were of SQL, and I learned it just in time to be able to do the SQL queries that I needed to test that those reports were producing the right data points and the right records. And now I can do intermediate level SQL queries, right? But prior to that, I didn't have that knowledge, and I didn't need to have that knowledge because there was no one project's context that required me to have that. So I wouldn't say you need to have that level of knowledge right from the get-go and hopefully you'll get to use it. See it more as a just-in-time, on-demand need that you can build. And with the plethora of information that's out there on this wonderful interweb that we all use, it's all kinds of information, all kinds of tutorials, all kinds of paid courses, if you like. There isn't any one I can recommend necessarily. But to close out on that point, Michael, in my 20 years, I have never taken an IT course. Not one. Not a single one. I understand the architecture, right? Client, server, database. I understand it to a working level, that I understand the concepts and the terminologies enough that I can communicate. David, I'll borrow one of your words earlier, to be that bridge, that translator, that liaison between the technical team members and the stakeholders and the SMEs and all those other stakeholder groups with whom we interact. So that's what we need, is to build that working knowledge, and in many cases that will be built just in time on an on-demand basis. Does that make sense, Michael?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, it makes sense.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks so much
Sure.
for that.
You're more than welcome.
All right, Caleb, go for your question, please. Oh, yes, so Caleb. Please unmute your mic so we can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Oh my
Please
God, I
go
thought
on.
I was talking. Thank you, David, and thank you, David. It's been very insightful session. So I have a question which is tailored more towards managing certain stakeholders within an organization. We all know that some stakeholders are probably just a thing of personality and not so welcoming. During some certain type of meeting or during some certain settings within a project. My question is, how do you positively assert yourself, right, as a BA that's leading or that's championing a project, so that you don't come off as, you don't give off a negative energy, to these stakeholders, but as well, also having a full grasp or being in control, of certain processes as the BA.
So firstly, Caleb, it comes down to setting and managing expectations. This is one, sort of failure point that I have found throughout the years in working with others, is that we as BAs in general don't always set and manage expectations with our stakeholders, our subject matter experts, in terms of how information is going to be shared, how they can reach out to you, and so on. Which leads me to my second point. It's about killing them with kindness, as the expression goes. If you are very approachable, if you're very polite, if you're very congenial in your conversations, then people will be more willing to work with you, right? We're all people, which means we're all human, and which means we generally want to help each other. So when you present yourself, and not necessarily by proactively doing so, but just, reactively, just being normal, being comfortable, being congenial, maybe throwing in a little, polite humor here and there to just sort of break the ice with your stakeholders, they'll come to realize that you're a person too, and that you're just here to try and get this work done as much as they are. And as you show that, as you demonstrate that through the meetings you facilitate, through the one-on-one conversations you have, they'll come to realize that. Right? The other thing is to learn about your stakeholders, Caleb, right? Understand if you're going to have a difficult stakeholder you work with, in a lot of cases, you won't be able to do anything but work with them. They are that subject matter expert that's been assigned to that project, and you have to work with them. You have to find a way to break the ice with them. And what I have found is work when I've had to face a difficult stakeholder is really try to understand their context.
Mhm.
What are the circumstances? What are the conditions? What are the constraints that they have, right? That are involved there. Sorry, Eric, would you mind muting while we answer Caleb's question here, please?
Sí, ahí hay opciones. De fuerzas hallamos algo chido.
Thank you, Eric.
Sorry, David, you are muted if you are speaking.
Now I'm on mute as well. Look at that. All right.
All right.
We figured it out. So Caleb, if you're still with us, the other part there is to also work with your stakeholders and understand them, learn their pain points, learn what their constraints are, what workloads they have, and try and find ways to help them through that, to help them then help you achieve the deliverables and the work that you have to get done as a BA on that project. So it's a multi-pronged approach, if you will, that you have to work through sometimes in order to work with these difficult stakeholders. But all in all, if there's one message I want you to take away from this, it's kill them with kindness.
All right. Thank you so much, David. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
When I keep hearing, thank you, David, I don't know which one to pick, but I feel it's David. So that's all right. Thank you for that, David. So I have a question here, and I can see many hands up, but let me just take the one in the chat box that will come back to you. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So, Cocoa Sugar, I believe that's your name. So, can you give? The person said, can you give us an example of difficult stakeholder you've worked with, particularly when you've had to kill with kindness?
Absolutely. This is going to be perhaps a little bit more of an extreme example, but it's an example nonetheless. I was working in an organization that was providing testing services. So they would test anything from airplane steel to cosmetics to prescription drugs, anything for their clients to make sure it met industry specifications and was safe to put on store shelves. In this company, there was a health sciences division, and they were, again, testing the various prescription drugs and whatnot. And there was a particular lab manager that would regularly interrupt meetings and express his frustrations as to what was going on and why are we doing this work and all that sort of stuff. And so I took the opportunity to approach him one-on-one and asked if I could have 15 minutes of his time to understand where he was coming from, and was there anything I could do to help him through his work. Believe it or not, what we ended up doing, and this is where I mean extreme example, so don't expect you need to do this all the time, but I actually helped him through his to-do list. His frustrations were fundamentally coming from the fact that his to-do list was overflowing. His pot was overflowing with water. He didn't know where to start, where to end, what to work on first, and so on. And so using the kind of prioritization experiences that I had had from past project work, we took 15 minutes or so, and I helped him prioritize his workload. Now, mind you, wink, wink, I was a little bit selfish and tried to get some of my tasks of him, for me, prioritized higher up on his list so I could get done what I needed to get done on the project. But ultimately, my motives were good, and I ended up helping him prioritize his daily to-do list and how he should approach determining what's more important than something else to work on. And after that, his demeanor changed. He had more control over his situation, over his schedule, over his lab scientists that he was managing as their people manager, and he just ended up being in a better mood and more constructive going on. So by taking the opportunity and offering some of my own time, which is precious, no doubt, but it led to a greater benefit, which was him as a more collaborative and contributing stakeholder as we went through that project life cycle. So
Right.
I hope that helps.
Cocoa Sugar, I hope that helps. You can just reply, give an emoji if you're okay with that. So somebody emphasized, said, kill them with kindness. That's true. If that's the only thing you're going to take away from here today, out of 1, 2, or 3, try to kill them with kindness. Now, Michael Coyote said, I'm not asking for tools. Okay. I feel Tabitha was saying that. I think Michael is asking for tools. BAUs. Some tools BAUs are Jira, Microsoft Visio, Confluence, Microsoft Project, Excel sometimes, and Miro. All right. Thank you, Tabitha. Thank you. Michael, you have something to say. All right, go on.
Okay, yes, thank you. So my another question is, as a business analyst, if the client, the requirement which they actually want is not that the actually requirements they need to solve the particular problem. So how do we handle such a client to let them realize that when a business analyst is not putting down maybe the requirement aside? So how do we handle the priority?
So if I understand the question correctly, Michael, a stakeholder has expressed a need that isn't falling in line with what the project is trying to address. It's a separate need. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the way to do that is to understand, again, by questioning and verifying. So when they are expressing a need that you come to realize doesn't fall within the scope, within the boundaries of what this project is trying to solve, then take that opportunity to question and verify, phrasing it perhaps like, help me understand, dear stakeholder, what you meant by X, or help me understand how that falls within the scope here, because it could be something that you are just completely missing, and you're human too as a BA, right? You're a person, you're a human, you may misunderstand, misinterpret things, you'll miss things from time to time, and maybe they just didn't express it clearly, accurately, or completely enough for you to understand it. But what also will happen is maybe they'll come to realize once they have a second thought to what they expressed as a need that, yet, you know what, it doesn't fall in there. The third possibility is that what they express is in fact a legitimate need that should be solved by this project as it's delivered. And so maybe the scope needs to be expanded in order to account for this need and related needs to be addressed and implemented as well. It's not always that the scope is set and therefore completely fixed like concrete and you can't move it, you can't adjust it. Maybe it does need to adjust because you learn as a project team with the stakeholders as time goes on in that project's delivery. So maybe there's something to learn there and something to adjust, and therefore to go back to your Scrum Master, your project manager, whomever, and say, I think we may have a potential change request here because these points seem to be legitimate, and those get discussed and decided by the right authorities, and things progress from there. So keep an open mind and try to really understand the rationale behind what they're telling you. What's the context? What are the circumstances? And again, not just take the superficial statement for what it is.
Absolutely. That's fabulous. Michael, you have done justice to your question. So, David, someone said, he said, if AI is not replacing the BA activities, right? Alonso de la Rosa, if AI is not replacing the BA activities, which is good, what are the AI fundamentals for a BA?
The AI fundamental is to become as effective as you can at prompt engineering. which is a very fancy term for crafting those requests within the AI tool. So whether that's Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, it's about understanding how to effectively craft those prompts so that you get the output you're looking for. I'm sure everyone here has heard the expression garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
If you put in a very basic, very vague, very abstract prompt into ChatGPT or any other Gen AI tool, you're going to get the same kind of response out from it, right? Or it's at least going to prompt you for more information, more context, more detail, so it can craft a better response for you. So taking the time to learn how to do that, and also recognize that it's not always a one-shot deal when it comes to these prompts and using these tools, that you have to get the prompt right the first time. No, it's a very iterative process, just like the rest of our work is as a BA. So you start with the prompt, you get the response. Oh, that's not exactly what I was looking for, but I want to add this flavor in, or I want to add this scenario in. So you add a follow-up prompt, and it then adjusts its response accordingly. And you go back and forth like a chat to then get to ultimately the output you're looking for. The other example of doing this or using AI is when it comes to stakeholder analysis. I have found it really effective when I have taken a set of elicitation notes. So from those workshops, from those focus groups, from those interviews I hold with the stakeholders, and I make my notes, whether that's through an AI recording tool or my own manual notes, and then I include those into the prompt, and I say, please review these notes for major themes from stakeholders. Identify who all the key stakeholders are, what are their main concerns, what are their main themes, and hit go, and it will do all that grunt work for you. And that's where I really see us as BAs taking advantage and leveraging AI, is allowing it to help us do that grunt work that we often don't like to do as BAs, which is to take all those disparate notes and conversations and meeting minutes and whatnot and find a way to make it that cohesive package, right? That jigsaw puzzle in the end that is the complete, accurate, and clear story of what the stakeholders need, positioned as a set of requirements. That initial work to start figuring out what the puzzle pieces are and who said what when and have it all start to come together, AI can do a lot of that initial grunt work for us when we provide it with all those raw notes.
So it's more of leveraging AI to do, the rigorous work, rather saving our brains. Then we come in, right? We come in and we say, okay, this is where you've stopped, or this is where
AI has stopped.
this is where you're able to, transcribe your knowledge base, because I know AI is about knowledge base. What is it? The knowledge base is what it to turn out for you. So thank you for that, David. Then another person is asking, what's one piece of advice? Olade, I'm coming to you. What's one piece of advice that's Asmita Kaushal? Pardon me. What's one piece of advice you would give to someone early in their business analysis career?
First and foremost, it would be to start incorporating the 4 habits that we talked about today. As I mentioned earlier, to answer someone else's question, find as much project experience as you possibly can. So I mentioned, getting an opportunity to volunteer as a subject matter expert on a project where you work today, but maybe also join a local chapter of a BA professional association, whether it's IIBA, BCS, or others, and become a volunteer member of that chapter and participate in helping them deliver the events that they are putting out for their members. And guess what? Those events are projects, right? Because they're finite activities, they have a specific scope, a specific, benefit, and you're working through it. And that is project experience, just as legitimate as a paid experience that you can then put on your resume as having completed. The bonus, if you think about it, is by helping to put those events together for the chapter, you will likely be there on the day of the event to help organize it and get it running, and you get to attend that training for free, right? So think of the back end benefit of doing that type of volunteer work, right? The other one that I like to share is think of nonprofit organizations, right? they're often tight for resources and what have you, both financial and people. So if there's an opportunity and you have the bandwidth in your day-to-day schedule to support them, see if there's any nonprofit organization that needs some system implemented, some review of their processes and whatnot. Because remember, their businesses all the same, they're just not for profit. Sure, they build up reserves in order to be able to have cash on hand when they need it, but they're not there to make a huge profit like for-profit enterprises. But they still are businesses. They still need to run. They still have processes, operations, resources, and all kinds of stuff like for-profit enterprises. So that again is just as legitimate project experience as working in a paid employment situation.
Okay. Fabulous. All right, Olalade, so you can keep your hand down. Please unmute your mic and ask a question. Olalade Josephine, please.
Okay, good evening, David. Thank
Hello.
you. Okay, I just want to ask, how do we help stakeholders that actually don't know what they need? Because there are actually some stakeholders who don't really know what they need. They actually want to build like a system, but they don't know the features and the functionalities they want on the system. Probably maybe until you're done with the design, that is the UI UX, before they start bringing up things, that is the things they want. Like how will we help them?
We help them through an exercise called brainstorming. So what we do is try to generate a whole bunch of ideas in a short period of time about what their needs are and keep them focused at that higher level. They don't need to describe initially what the features and functionality are. They need to express initially what their business needs are. Right? What are those goals and objectives they're trying to accomplish? And then we progressively elaborate that information as BAs through probative questioning down to a set of stakeholder needs and requirements, right? What are those kinds of business capabilities they're looking for? Again, nothing technical, nothing functional, but just understand what those business capabilities are. And then through progressively elaborating some more with further probative questioning, we will then take them as BAs down to the necessary level of details and specifics, aka the features and functions that they're looking for, that can then be worked on by our technical team. So it isn't about diving into the details and the weeds immediately. It's about starting at a higher level and then progressively elaborating the information, because we know what's the level of details and specifics that are needed, but they won't always know, and they shouldn't feel pressured to have to say that up front. It's our job as BAs to elicit. That's why we call it requirements elicitation, right? To draw out, to bring forth the information, and we will then take it down and present it back at the level of details and specifics that are needed there. Does that make sense?
All right, Olalade, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
You're
Awesome.
more than welcome.
I think that's all in the chat box. Any other question? Olalade, is your hand up? Any other question? Okay, all right. That's all in the chat box, and all hands are down. All right, so okay, Alonso, how can we get the URL for the BA courses at the Toronto University? That's for you, David.
Okay. Well, I can do is I can just get that URL here from my presentation.
Okay.
And I will drop it here into the chat.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Alonso, there you have it. That is one of the goodies you enjoy, when you're in this kind of community. You have access to professionals, you have access to experts, you have access to the modern best practices in the industry, as we speak. So my final question to you, David, and I know that most people, and I feel we're trying to reorientate business analysts, right? The key word, gathering requirements and requirement elicitation. What do you have to say about that?
First of all, I don't like the term requirements gathering, David, to be honest with you. I think it's a complete misnomer and misrepresentation of what we do, because requirements are not like the leaves on your front lawn in the autumn season just waiting to be raked up and easily dropped into a yard waste bag and you're done with it. That's why elicitation is a more appropriate term, because it connotates a more active role that we have to pursue as BAs in order to draw out the information. As I said earlier on, stakeholders are usually not IT savvy nor project savvy, right? They know their business operations well, they know their day jobs very well, but they don't always know the level of details and specifics we need to get to as a project team in order to be able to implement capabilities and features and functions or process changes or new facilities or policies or whatever those solution components may be.
Yeah.
They don't always know how to get to that level of information, but we do, right? So it's an elicitation exercise. It's an active effort to pull out the information and understand what level of information are they telling me. And if it's not at the details and specifics I need, which initially it isn't, you will then progressively elaborate your questions, your probing, your show me this and show me that, using the habits we talked about to eventually get them to tell you the information at the level of details and specifics that the project team needs to implement stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. So more of requirement elicitation than requirement gathering, and this is to everyone on this call. We're trying to reorientate people. It's not about you gathering, you know, like David mentioned. I don't need to go about that again. So Amira Galal says that how can AI be helpful in business analysis documentation? And I believe this will be the last question for today. How can AI be helpful in business analysis documentation?
Well, remember, certainly, David, thank you. And thank you, Amira, for the question. And thank you to everyone for the questions, by the way. Remember, these generative AI tools are built on large language models. They're being fed, they're being trained, all this information from all different sources, and that includes templates and other documents that have been created and put out there on the interweb for us to consume. And they're there available for us to access. But again, it goes back to that prompt engineering we talked about and how to effectively craft those prompts to say, produce the output in a certain way. It's not just about asking for the information. You can also tell these generative AI tools how you want the information to be displayed. You know, structure this in a table of contents, or lay this out in a use case description for me, or whatever the output is you're looking for. But always remember, folks, until AI gets to such a sophisticated and refined point that it will some way, somehow be able to read your thoughts and know exactly what you're looking for, until that magical day comes, you're going to have to take the output and then refine it and massage it and make it fit, again, the context of the project that you're working on, right? Any template you find on the interweb today is based on the context of the project that it was used in. It's not a one-size-fits-all universal cookie cutter recipe that you can use on every project. Each project will have its own context because it's in a different organization, which could be in a different industry, involving different stakeholders, a different scope, and so on and so forth. So understanding what those circumstances, conditions, and constraints are for the project you're working on will help you determine the kind of documentation and deliverables you need to produce. And then with that insight, you can help, AI can help you get there more effectively. But you will always, at least for the foreseeable future, need to refine, need to massage, need to normalize it into your practices and into your company's standard practices.
Awesome, awesome. That's great. Thank you, David. Can we all appreciate David for the insights he has given so far? Can we show an emoji? Let's trade some emojis there. Some people clapping, some people sending, thumbs up. Please appreciate David. Thank you, David. And I would like to say I've gained a lot today, right? And funny enough, I never knew that you didn't take any IT certification. So
none, absolutely none.
Right. So apparently we can't self-develop ourselves, right?
Again, it's about building that working knowledge, David. It's about learning what we need to learn when we need to learn it. And with all the resources, digital resources we have available to us today, it's pretty easy to build up that requisite working knowledge, again, to communicate those concepts and terms with the various folk, whether it's IT, accounting, manufacturing, it doesn't matter. We can learn that in enough time. So it really comes down to those analytical abilities, those probative questioning skills, right? The ability to critically think through something is really what's going to be fundamental to our success.
Right. So how about in the industry whereby these are certain requirements, these are certain criteria, that you need to meet? What will be your advice?
Help me understand the question a little bit more, David.
Right. So if one is applying for jobs, right, and we've said you can actually follow a particular framework. So this is just me saying two different persons or two different activities. You can't say because David, just to corroborate what you said, because David was able to navigate his way through by the right certification, is not writing it off that you shouldn't go for certifications if you can.
Correct.
Right. So that is me just putting that out. So if you can, go for certifications and you feel it will help you, you can go for that. But he has been able to develop himself in that regard. And that also qualifies him right now to speak, as a seasoned professional and an expert. So David, thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking us on this journey. The first day of the Business Analysis Summit for 2025, redefining business analysis. I've gained that if you are working with difficult stakeholder, you should kill them with kindness. Okay. And also is also important for us to ensure that we get the right roadmap, we get the right the right framework that I want to use and how to address projects. So I will say to everyone on this call, I will say that I hope you've been able to learn one or two things from David. And also the next time for our business summit is going to be on the 7th, right? It's going to be on the 7th of January. And we have Laura coming over. David, promise me to take over and just to share this.
By all means.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we have Laura coming to speak to us, and it will be a great time. As you've joined in today, I want you to know that this is, where innovation meets transformation. And this event is just about professionals, how to explore cutting edge strategies, technologies and methodologies reshaping our industry. So, David, once again, thank you very much. And we hope that we'll call on you again and you answer us.
Thank you for having me, David O. Happy to be here, happy to connect. And also, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as one last comment,
Yes,
if
please.
I may.
Yes, please.
My last name is pretty unique. You should be able to readily find me on LinkedIn. I know some of you already connected before today's session, but if you haven't already and you'd like to, feel free to do so. Happy to stay connected with you all as we go on our BA journeys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, folks. David O, thank you once again. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, David. Thank you, David.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah. All right, and that's it, community. That's it for today. We'll see you again next time. Please ensure that you follow us on our social media channels so that you get updated information, and also, how we're gonna run this, this summit. I don't want you to miss it for any reason because you have a lot to, to get from here. And I will say that we have practical sessions coming up as well. So please tell a friend, share it, join our community. If you've gotten an email from us because you registered for this summit, you have all the links you need. We will provide the material and the resources from David that was said today. Bye, everyone. Have a good day. See you next time. I remain David Odepido. Bye for now.
Thank you, David.
You're welcome. See you next time.